Thank you. Welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Paul, and I'm going to be giving a talk tonight on the subject of my newest book called The Formula for Health. And I see a lot of new faces here tonight. I'm actually from New York, and I've done many talks here in New York and Queens and so on. Tonight I'm going to give a lot of information I know you haven't heard before, because I spoke to many of you already, but I'm also going to give information that you might have heard before, but I'm going to simplify it. There seems to be a lot of confusion about the raw food diet and health, and there's not too many people that have been doing this quite a long time. I've written some books where I've actually found the people who were doing it for a very long time and interviewed them. And that was years ago. And now I'm one of the people that can be interviewed, because I've been eating this way now for about 17 years. And some of the people that spoke here in the past have become my best friends. And some of the people in the New York City area, like Dr. Fred Vichy, who's been eating the raw food diet for over 50 years, has become a great friend as well. So I've learned a lot from these people, and instead of me just sitting alone in a dark closet, I want to get this information out to everyone. So that's what we're going to be doing this evening. My new book is called The Formula for Health. I've written 7 books, and the first 6 were self-published, and my new book, The Formula for Health, is published by a publisher. And all my books are here except my new book. It is done, but it was done by a publisher, so that's why it's not here yet. It's going to be out any week now, but if anyone wants to order that tonight, we can have it sent to you. I don't want to say hot off the press because we're raw foodists here, so I'll say under 108 degrees off the press. We'll get it to you. Now, before I get started tonight, there's a couple of things I want to ask of everyone, and I also want to introduce myself and my background before we get into the Formula for Health. But the first thing I want to ask everyone here is, by a show of hands, how many people here heard me speak before? Great, not too many of you, so my jokes will be nice and fresh tonight. Great. Okay, now, I have a couple of more questions because we don't have a lot of time, and in the short amount of time we have, I want to give you the most information I can give you as possible. Now, by a show of hands, how many people here are actually eating a raw food diet? And I don't just mean like tonight. Great. How many of you here, by a show of hands, is eating a diet that has a lot of raw foods in it, but it's not necessarily all raw? Great, great. How many of you here are vegans? Raise them high, let me see. Okay. How many of you here are lacto-vegetarians? Like a fake vegetarian. Okay, great. I'm just kidding, that's fine.
I'm more vegan,
that's
but
just
I'm
fine.
still swinging.
How many of you don't want to raise your hand? Raise your hand. How many of you just came from McDonald's? I just did. I probably visit McDonald's more than anyone else in this room. Because when you travel as much as I do and you need a bathroom, it's a great place to go. And the reason why it's so great is because they never kick you out and it's always available. The reason why it's always available is because everyone's eating out food is constipated, so they're not using the bathroom. But what I see when I go to McDonald's is quite confusing. I see people online about to eat some of the worst food on the planet, and they're happy. They're all happy, waiting for their happy meal, and I understand that because I did that myself for many years. But what's really confusing is why when I go to a health food store, many times I see people online about to eat some of the best food on the planet, and they're miserable. And they're confused. And I'm thinking, why is that so? Well, after doing a lot of research in many years, I found out the reason. And the reason is, health is more than just diet alone. I don't care how your diet is, if you're not getting enough exercise, getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, and paying attention to the emotional and spiritual aspects of health, you're not going to be as healthy as you could be. That's why the name of my book here is not the raw diet, it's the raw life. This is a lifestyle change, not a diet change. So we're going to talk about that. But before I do that, I want to get into my background, how I started to do this. And I'm sure some of you can relate with this since I grew up in New York. And I feel good here because when I'm usually speaking somewhere other than New York, I have the expert translator in the room, but we don't need to do that here tonight. So that's great. Now, I can tell you right off the bat that I know when somebody's going to be able to eat a raw diet or accomplish their goals or not, pretty much by the way people react to the word discipline. A lot of people tell me they wish they could do this, but they don't have the discipline. And here's the key to understand something. Everyone has discipline for what they love. Everyone has discipline for what they love. And if you love being healthy, and if you love eating good and eating well, you'll be disciplined with a raw food diet and you'll be able to accomplish it. To give you an example, I have a brother who has a dog. He says he has no discipline to eat this way because he's not a disciplined person. This man in 10 years has never missed walking his dog and walked it 3 times a day. That takes a lot of discipline. We have discipline for what we love. But what many people lack is the understanding and the wisdom, which we'll get a lot of it tonight, and there's books here that will teach a lot of that. But even more important, one of the greatest books I ever read was Enthusiasm Makes the Difference. Once we have the knowledge, once we have the information, once we have the discipline, we have to be enthusiastic about it or it's not going to work. You have to be enthusiastic about being healthy, about learning more about good food, and making this happen. Does everyone here agree with me? Yes. I'll say this again. You have to be enthusiastic about this. Does everyone here agree with me? Yeah. That's more like it. Okay. That's great. All right. Now, how did I get into this? I don't want to take too much time on my story, but I have to because you'll learn a lot during my story and it'll set things up for the formula of health perfectly. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York, and as I was going there in high school, I was in a special program where I was working in the city. I was working on Wall Street. I started at 16 years old working on Wall Street. And I was never really a healthy person, but I thought I was because I was always into fitness. I was what we call a gym rat. I was always going to the gym. I boxed 3 days a week, and I went to the gym and work out the weights 3 days a week. I did that every day. I would get up every morning about, can't hear me over the juicer, right? I would get up every morning about 4:30 in the morning. I'd be on the train at 5 a.m. I'd go to the gym to work out about. I'd go into the work at 7 a.m. I had a 9-to-5 job, so I worked 7 to 6. And then I would go out from there and I would go to college at nighttime, and after college I would come home and do my 2 favorite things. I would watch TV late at night and eat. And that's what I did on a regular basis. Now when you're younger you can do that. It doesn't matter what you eat or what you do when you're younger, you can get away with it. But what you do when you're younger will catch up to you when you get older. And I was able to do that for a certain time, and like I said, I was very fit. But I found out the hard way that being fit and being healthy is not necessarily the same thing. There are a lot of people that are in gyms today drinking these crazy protein shakes and all these other garbage that they're not healthy at all. That's why they got to work out that hard to begin with. So what happened to me was, one night I was watching TV late at night, and I was living in this lifestyle for quite a while. It got to a point, you'll see in my book here, I have some before and after pictures, where I had 2 black eyes. It wasn't from boxing, I wasn't that bad. It was from living this type of lifestyle every day, night after night, getting only 4 to 5 hours a night worth of sleep. I was able to do that for 2 reasons. Number one was I was young, and the other reason was I was living on stimulation. I never liked coffee. I never drank 1 cup of coffee my whole life. But I was addicted to something called Jolt, which is like caffeine, soda with like quadruple the caffeine. And I did that for many, many years, but it caught up to me. One night I was watching TV late at night, about 11:30 at night when I got home, and all of a sudden I got some really bad stomach pains, and I had to run to the bathroom. And I couldn't stop going to the bathroom, and I figured something was wrong because I would always get stomach pains, but they wouldn't last long, and these were lasting long. I went to the emergency room of the hospital. The doctors were there, and they ran a whole bunch of tests, and they said, it appears you had food poisoning. Well, after being there for many hours, I went home, and the next night, the same thing happened. I was watching TV late at night, the pains came back worse than the pains the night before. I went to the emergency room, and it was a different doctor there that night. And they ran a whole bunch of tests. I said to the doctor, I really need to know what's going on. This is getting serious now. The season finales are coming out, and I don't want to miss them. Well, they ran a whole bunch of tests, and they said, we definitely know what's wrong with you. You have food poisoning. 2 nights in a row they said I had food poisoning. Well, I went home, and a couple of nights were okay, and I'll never forget the season finale was on. It was a Friday night, and the pain came back so bad, I had to rush to the bathroom. and the only thing that was coming out was blood.